This is the most in-depth guide to date on how to get rich in Krunker. So I'm going to be going over some things that you won't hear in other videos, and I'm also going to be correcting some things you might have heard, like that you should be spinning or that you should just go out and buy premium. Both are bad advice, and I'll be going over those. So first, let's go over some ways to get KR outside of Krunker. So one way is by entering giveaways. This might just mean responding to giveaways, or you might have to send invites to servers. But if you enter a live giveaways, you can get a live KR because giveaways can be 500 KR or they can be 100,000 KR. So this is a really good way. You're probably not going to win every giveaway you enter, but if you enter a lot, you'll eventually win. Another thing that you can do is participating in the Tuesday drop events on Twitch. So each Tuesday, you have to watch a handful of hours, and each hour you watch, you get a drop. And if you get all these drops, you can make anywhere between 500 and a couple thousand KR. So it's a really good way to get KR. And last way is to provide services. So this might mean making artwork for people, or specifically for their YouTube or Twitch, or you might be making mods for people or CSSs, or even editing content for them. So you provide these services for them, and then they can pay you in KR. So that's another good way to get KR outside of Krunker. Okay, so in Krunker, you're going to be getting a lot of KR, and one thing that you'll have to deal with is scammers. So unfortunately, there are a good number of scammers in Krunker, and you need to know how to not get scammed, because you can get a bunch of KR and then just lose it, which completely defeats the purpose. So first off, never trust people. Now, if you have a good friend that you've known for like a year or two, and you really think that they're trustworthy, then that would be the exception to this. But in general, don't trust people in Krunker. They can lie to you. They can seem like nice people when they're actually just trying to get profit off of you. So don't trust people, and always be very careful. Do not be careless when you're trading or when you're in the market. Just always be very deliberate with everything you do, and don't send empty trades to people. So this means somebody might say, hey, send me your, I don't know, rainbow LMG, and then I'll pay you, I'll send you KR. They're probably lying to you. They're just trying to get you to send them something, and then they're not going to actually pay you. So never send empty trades. Don't just send people things without anything in return. Another thing is, they might say that if you send them KR, they'll send you something. That's also usually a scam. So don't send people KR. Another thing, just always be very careful when accepting trades. So I kind of learned this the hard way recently, a couple days ago. Despite having thousands of hours in Krunker and being 20 years of age, I still fell for a scammer. So it's kind of embarrassing, but this is what happened. So I was playing Krunker one day, and this guy was being pretty cool, pretty nice. He said he was going to delete his account and sell his PC because he just wasn't into video games anymore. And he said he was going to send me a rainbow sawed-off. And, you know, this is a pretty common thing for people to do, quit Krunker and give away all their stuff. So I said, all right, cool. And I didn't really get around to seeing if he sent me anything until later that day. So later that day, I got on to the hub and I went to my trades, and I saw that he was going to send me this. So I accepted it. And then I realized, instead of sending me a rainbow sawed-off, he asked to take my rainbow sawed-off, which is the exact opposite of what he said he was going to do. And I had been careless, and I accepted, and I gave him my sawed-off. So I got scammed. Really big rookie move. Do not do this. Be really careful. Make sure you don't accidentally send someone something when you think that they're sending you something. Unfortunately, I could get my item back, but he did get blocked, or he got locked out of his account. So karma. Another thing, don't scam people, or else you're probably going to get banned, and then that just defeats the purpose. So yeah. Alright, so let's go over the main ways that you can get KR in Krunker. So this is going to be either trading, or using the market, or grinding. So let's go over trading first. This is the main way that people get rich in Krunker. Most of the time when you see someone with a bunch of unobtainables, it's because they trade a lot and they're good at it. The number one rule of trading, obviously, again, don't get scammed. So don't send MP trades, don't send people KR, And if you can, record your screen whenever you're in a trade lobby, so if someone does scam you, you have proof of it and you can report them. So let's say you want to learn how to trade. I recommend watching some trading videos, like some guides on trading, because I'm not particularly knowledgeable on trading. But before you do that, here are some reasons you might not want to trade. So for starters, here's how trading works. You have to give someone something that you have for something that they have, and what they give you needs to be worth more than what you give them. That's how you make profit trading. And that's obviously something that you might not want to do. In other words, you kind of have to rip people off in order to make big profits by trading. And this is what traders do. They'll tell people that they're getting a good deal when they're actually not. So it's a little bit unethical if you think about it the same way that I do. So for that reason, you might not want to get into trading. Another reason is that it can be pretty boring. It's very tedious. You just have to talk to a bunch of people and do a bunch of trading, and if you're like me, that's pretty boring. And the last reason is just that it takes a lot of skill. It definitely has quite the learning curve to get good at trading, so there's a lot of downsides to it. So personally, I don't really trade at all. I might trade just to trade something that I have for something that someone else has, but I don't trade for profit ever. If you do want a couple quick tips, always look at the past prices of things to make sure that you're getting a fair deal, and never be afraid to ask for advice. Even if you're just trying to get a fair trade and you're not trying to make profit, always ask for advice from traders who know what they're doing, because they'll be able to tell you if you're getting a fair deal or not. And lastly, premium. So if you buy premium, you can trade 15 things at once instead of the default 5. So this might be useful for you if you're doing a ton of trading, but otherwise I would not recommend doing that because premium's really expensive. So yeah, that's everything I know about trading, and now let's move on to using the market. So before you buy anything on the market, you want to make sure that you're getting the lowest price, obviously. So how you do that is you click on the item, you click more info or whatever it says, and then you go to the page for that item, and you click find. And then you get all of the current listings for that item, and you can just buy the cheapest one. So there are two ways that you can make profit on the market. The more easy way is to just buy low and then sell high. So when Krunker hasn't gotten an update in a while and it's just not very popular, it's kind of in a slow state, that's when you want to buy a bunch of stuff. Prices are going to be low and you can get a lot of stuff that way. And then when the biggest update comes out and it's super popular and everyone's playing Krunker, prices are going to go up, and then that's when you want to sell your stuff. So that takes a lot of waiting, but that's what I've done, and I've made quite a bit of KR that way. A long time ago, I bought a rainbow AK for 30k, so the skin for 30,000, and then a couple of years later, I sold it for 170, I think, maybe even 200 something thousand KR. So if you buy low and sell high, you can make a ton of KR in the long run. Another way, the other way is market flipping. So that's a short-term thing. It usually lasts like a day or maybe a week or so per flip. So what you do is you basically scour the market for things that are listed lower than what they're worth. So sometimes people don't know what something's worth, or they're just trying to be generous and they'll list something for less than they can get for it. So what market flippers do is they scour the market for those things, they buy them, and then they resell them for what those items are actually worth, or maybe a little bit higher. So this is a little bit boring because you're gonna have to spend a lot of time just looking at different pages on the market, but it is a way that you can get some KR. It's not quite as effective as trading, but it is a lot more ethical, and if you like using your brain to get KR, then this is one of those things that you can do. So now let's go over the last and most common way of getting KR in Krunker, which is just by playing the game. This is my favorite way because it's fun, and I've gotten most of my KR just by playing the game. So how this works is at the end of each game, you get 1 KR for each 100 points that you got. So if you get 1,000 points, then you'll get 10 KR, and this usually maxes out at 30 KR. So what you want to do is get that 30 KR as close to every game as you can, and if you don't get 30 KR, you want to get obviously as close to 30 KR as you can. So how do you do this? Well, for starters, you want to have a good connection to the game and you want to have good FPS. So in order to get that good connection, I recommend using an Ethernet cable. If you can't do that, then maybe get closer to the router or something, but you want to have good internet. And then for FPS, one thing you can do is use the client, or you can use the Steam client. So on most good computers, this is going to run a lot better than a browser. It's also not going to be capped at 60 FPS. So you most likely want to use a client. For some people, it's better to use the browser, and you'll actually get more FPS on the browser, but for most people, you're going to be wanting to use that client. Another thing that you want to do is make sure that you have good settings. So if your settings are super high and your graphics are beautiful, but you don't have good FPS, then that's going to hold you back and you're not going to be getting as much KR. So you want to have a good balance of aesthetics to FPS. I recommend using whatever graphics you can as long as you get at least 60 FPS, but if you really want an edge, then it's better to have more than 100 FPS. I actually used to play on 0.1 res, which looked horrible, but that gave me the best FPS when I was on my MacBook. So it's horrible, but if you can get used to it, and then yeah, so you want make sure that your settings are going to work for you. Whatever you do, don't have horrible looking graphics just in order to get 500 FPS or something, because you really don't need that much FPS. As long as you have over 100, you're pretty much good. So settings are a really good thing about Krunker because they are super customizable. There are lots of settings and just lots of ways to customize. So I would recommend watching some videos that go over all the settings, and they'll show you how to make the game look exactly how you want it to. Some other ways that you can get more FPS is by using a mod. So there are a lot of mods out there, but I'll put some on the screen right now, and these can just give you a couple more FPS, which will help you perform better. Now these may or may not work for you, so I recommend testing them out and just seeing if they work. So once that you have all of your settings and you have a good internet connection, maybe you're using a mod, then you're going to want to get good at the game, obviously, because the higher your skill level you are, the more kills you're going to be getting and the more KR you're going to get. So practice Krunker, get good at it, watch some guides that give you tips on how to perform better, and also learn how to move well. Just learn as much as you can and practice as much as you can and get good at the game, because you're going to be getting a lot more KR that way. So should you play ranked or should you play pubs? For most people, I would recommend playing pubs, but if you're really good at the game and you get lots of points each game, then you might be able to make more KR playing ranked. The reason that most of the time ranked is not going to give you as much KR is because the games are 2 to 3 times as long. And you do get more KR per game, however, usually it doesn't make up for the fact that it's a much longer game. So if you're just an average player, then stick to pubs for getting KR, but if you're a really good player, then try out ranked and see how it goes, see which gives you more KR. So next you need to pick your class. You're going to want to pick a really good class because you're going to get more points, more KR that way. So I would recommend using either Triggerman, Hunter, Run and Gun, Detective, Marksman, or Commando. Those are the best classes and you're going to get the most KR if you use them. Some other classes that you can use but aren't quite as good are Vince and Bowman. And then the rest are just complete garbage and you're probably not going to be getting as much KR by using them. Now don't get me wrong, use whatever you enjoy using the most, but if you're just trying to grind KR, use those really good classes. And if you're trying to get the absolute most KR, then Hunter is the best class. But you have to be really good at it. If you're just a mediocre player, or even just a pretty good player, but you aren't very good at Hunter, then you're not going to be doing well with it. You have to have really good shot placement and be really consistent with it in order to get the most out of it. But if you are good at Hunter, then you're going to get more KR with it than any other class. So it's the best grinding class. So now you're in the game and you want to know what you can do to get the most KR. For starters, always look around the map and pick up any items that you can sell later. So pick up wood, cloth, wires, cans, spark plugs, any of those items, you can sell them. So even if you're not going to use them for crafting, pick them up because it's an easy quick sell for 10, or you can even sell them for 20, which is the case with cloth right now. So whenever you go into a game, go around the entire map and look for these, items, remember where they are so you can more efficiently look for them, and then once you're done with them, then you can start grinding kills. So when you're fighting people, you really want to be aiming for the head, because when you get a headshot, you get more points, which means you get more KR. You also want to be sliding and jumping a lot, because if you get a kill while sliding, then you get a drift kill, or if you get a kill when jumping, then you get a mid-air, and both of those give you bonus points. So headshots and bonus points by jumping and sliding are really good things. Another way you can get bonus points if you're using the Hunter class is by quickscoping. This is why Hunter is the best class for getting KR, assuming that you're really good with it, because you get so many more points by quickscoping with it. So you want to be quickscoping all the time if you're using Hunter. If you see someone just standing around, then knife them, or if someone's really low health, you can knife them too, but don't be knifing when it's too hard to get the kill and then you just get killed. You really want to be doing well, getting lots of kills, so don't knife too much, but if you have an easy knife kill, then get it. Once the game is over and you are voting for the next map that you want to play on, typically you're going to want to vote for either free-for-all or cranked, because they're going to give you more points. If you have a very well-populated lobby, then you're still going to get a lot of points playing TDM, but for most lobbies, when people aren't spawning in that often, you're going to want to play free-for-all. There's just more people to kill that way. So let's talk about challenge mode. Challenge mode is really good for getting KR. It's like a total hack for getting KR, and you're going to be getting a ton more if you use it, assuming you're good. Again, if you're just new to the game and maybe you're getting 20 kills per game or 10 kills per game, then you don't want to be using challenge mode, because it's just going to make it harder and you're not going to get any points at all because you're not going to be getting any kills. What challenge mode does is it halves your health and makes it so you have 0 regen. So like, it's really hard to get streaks when you're using challenge mode. It also, however, makes it so that at the end of the game you get 1.5 times as much KR. So instead of the max being 30, the max becomes 45. So if you can get 3,000 points, then you're going to get that 45 KR. Now, it is a lot harder to get that 3,000 points because you have so little health. However, if you're really good at the game and you can hit your shots and kill people quickly, then you're going to be getting that 45 KR. One trick for this is to use either Vince or Hunter, and even though Hunter has less health and you're only going to be having like 25 or 30 health when you're using challenge mode, it's still good to use Hunter or Vince because they are both very bursty classes. So with Triggerman, because your health is so low, you're going to be losing a lot of gunfights, but with a bursty class like Hunter or Vince, you can just one-tap people. So even though you have low health, you can kill people so quickly that they still don't have time to kill you. So Hunter and Vince are really good to use along with challenge mode. Now let's quickly talk about premium one more time. So if you are grinding, you need to decide, are you going to buy premium or not. Premium is a thing in Krunker that gives you a lot of benefits. It lets you change your name, and it can give you more character customization, and it just gives you all sorts of things you can do, but it's pretty expensive, as you can see here. So if you're trying to get a ton of KR, it is most likely not going to help you. It's just going to cost you money, and it's going to hold you back. It's just going to be a drain on how much KR you can get. The only time I would recommend using this is if you are a very skilled player that grinds just all day every day. So if you're a streamer and you're really good at the game, then you actually might be able to profit off of having premium, because it does boost your max KR per game. So if you're grinding pubs and you're just getting tons of kills and you're just doing it all day every day and you're getting a ton of KR, then you can actually pay back the price of the premium using the extra KR that you're going to be getting from it, and then you can get more, so then it's worth it. But if you don't play all day every day, if you're just a normal player who has a life outside of Krunker, then you're not going to want to get premium if you're trying to get a ton of KR. It's just another expense, and it's going to hold you back. So those are the 3 main ways to get KR in Krunker. Now there are a couple other ways. Let's say you want to get rich overnight. You just don't want to put a ton of time into the game. You want to get rich really quickly. Well, there's really only 2 ways to do that. One, you can scam people, and I do not recommend doing that because it's a bad thing to do, and you're probably going to get banned if you do it, so don't scam people. The other thing that you can do is to just buy KR with money. Now, for the vast majority of people, this is not going to be worth it. You're gonna spend that money. You're gonna spend 90 bucks and only get 60,000 KR, and then you're gonna buy a really cool skin and realize that you wish you just hadn't spent that money. So if money means something to you, then I wouldn't do that. If you're super rich, then go right ahead. You're supporting the game devs. You're definitely helping out the game by giving the devs money. But for the vast majority of people, it's not worth it. Another thing that you're going to want to do is always get the free spins whenever a new update comes out. So when updates come out, they like to put these free spins up where you go to the spins and you'll see this free one here. It's out of stock right now, but every time an update comes out, a big update that is, they'll make it back in stock, and then you can get it, and it's just a free spin. You can get something that's garbage and not worth much at all, or you can get a relic that's worth a couple thousand KR. So I highly recommend keeping track of these free spins and always doing the free spins. Another thing that you can do is get the free KR. So every hour, if you're playing the game, you can watch an ad and get free KR. Most of the time, you're not going to get much KR, but sometimes you can get a ton. But I would recommend doing this between games because you're going to get more KR by playing the game and getting points than by watching ads. So use it when you're between games and you can't be getting points. So now something that you should never do if you're trying to get rich in Krunker, and that is buying spins. So in Krunker, you can buy spins. It's just the same as like care packages or crates or something like that in another game. These do not give you your KR back. They just give you crappy items most of the time, and they cost a lot of KR. So, if you really like gambling and you're okay with being poor forever, then go right ahead. A lot of people really have fun doing these, but if you're trying to get rich, do not do spins because it just does not give you your KR back. It typically costs around 100,000 KR to get a contraband through spins, and most contrabands are only worth like 10 to 30,000 KR. So it's just not worth it. You're going to be losing more than half of your KR. And you might think that you can get an unobtainable, but that typically takes like millions of KR to get. So you're not going to get an unobtainable. It's just not realistic. You're not going to get an unobtainable. You're probably not even going to get a contraband unless you spend 100,000 KR, and you're not going to get 100,000 KR worth in contrabands. So yeah, don't do spins. Trust me, it's really a lot of people really have a hard time resisting it, but if you do resist doing spins and you really save up your KR, then you can buy stuff on the market and then you can trade that, or you can just save up items. But do not do spins, you'll lose all your KR. Now there's one more way to make KR, and that is by making maps. Now this is pretty tricky because you have to make really good maps, but if you can make really good maps and they get lots of plays, they're really popular, then people can donate KR to you and you can get a ton of KR this way. People like LAKEY have made a bunch of really popular maps, and he is one of the richest people in Krunker now. So map making is a very good way to make KR if you're good at it. Just keep in mind, this kind of requires some luck because even if you make a good map, it has to get popular, and that requires a lot of luck. Another thing you can do is whenever you make a map, you can add donation things in the map where you'll press a button and then it donates while you're playing the map. So map making, another good way, just you have to be good at it. Lastly, do not get scammed. It's very easy to get scammed if you're not being careful, or if you are too trusting of people. So just be very careful and don't trust anyone and don't get scammed. And that way you can actually make KR and then keep it instead of losing it all. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching this guide. I hope you got a lot out of it. Feel free to come back to it so that if you forgot anything, then you can refresh your memory. And thank you for watching. I will be making more guides in the future. This is my very first guide that I've ever made, and I hope it was good. I will be working on a movement video. I actually told you guys that I would be making that a long time ago, and I kind of never really got around to it, but I have been working on it a little bit right now, or lately, but it's a really long project. It's a big video, like 50 minutes or something like that, so it's going to take a long time. And I don't really know when it's going to be made, but if you do want to see more guides from me, then feel free to subscribe. And again, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, guys. Peace.